This traditional action camera mount. Not bought, but homemade. This unique mount for taking comparison shots with two pocket cameras. Made by me. This chest mount adapter for the X4 Air, printed by me. And this stylish lamp too. Yes, of course, printed by me. Just a few weeks ago, I had no clue about 3D printing. Somehow, it still seemed like a niche hobby for tech geeks and tinkerers to me. But I noticed that news about new 3D printers, new products and new developments was piling up. YouTube videos on the topic are getting millions of views. And I realized that 3D printing had long since gone mainstream. It was no longer a cumbersome process reserved for experienced printing experts. One name comes up particularly often in connection with 3D printing: Bambu Lab. I think they're the clear market leader in the consumer sector. And since, as you can imagine, I don't want to miss out on any technical developments, I got in touch with Bambu Lab. They provided me with a printer, the X2D. That means this printer was provided to me by Bambu Lab for free. But this video does not include any additional paid sponsorship. And I started printing. What did I print? The things I need most often. Camera accessories. The kind you need time and again, and the kind you can't buy anywhere, and that only I and a few other camera testers would ever need. But also other really cool things. In the next few minutes, I'll show you everything you need to know to get started with 3D printing. At the end, I'll show you some of my favorite pieces that I've printed and tell you about my personal experiences with 3D printing and what particularly surprised me. You'll see, getting started is extremely easy. And actually, a 3D printer is now a device that really anyone can use. Much like a regular printer, except it prints plastic objects instead of text. So how does 3D printing actually work? Basically, it's quite similar to an inkjet printer, just in 3D and with special materials. And just like with a conventional printer, the process starts with a print file, but here it doesn't describe text or an image. It describes a 3D model. This file is sent to the printer, which then carries out the print. Unlike other manufacturing processes, this doesn't involve cutting a piece of material to size. Instead, the model is built up layer by layer on a platform until the object is complete. To apply these layers, the printer naturally needs a material, essentially the ink of an inkjet printer, so to speak. In 3D printing, this would be the so-called filament. It's a thin plastic wire that is heated and then applied layer by a moving nozzle. So it's no magic at all. You can use it to print anything made of plastic. Why Bambu Lab? As I said a few weeks ago, I knew absolutely nothing about 3D printing. I wanted a device that was high quality and as easy to use as possible. And if those are your criteria, you'll immediately come across Bambu Lab. Their printers are considered particularly fast and feature a kind of plug-and-play system. That means you set up the printer, load the filament and can start printing right away. When my printer arrived, I didn't have time. I was busy with other projects. So I asked my 11-year-old son, who was naturally thrilled about the new 3D printer, to set it up and get it ready to go. This isn't a made-up story. I still don't know what he did. But after half an hour, we were able to start printing. Bambu Lab sent me the X2D, so I didn't pick the printer myself. But one thing surprised me. The X2D is a new and already higher-end model from Bambu Lab. And at $649, it's significantly cheaper than I had expected. My model also has what's called an AMS, an automatic material system. You can load 4 different materials or 4 colors into it, allowing you to print multicolored objects, for example, without having to manually change the filament during printing. And the crazy thing is, there are already models like the A1 Mini for $220. Compared to my X2D, the A1 Mini is significantly smaller, but it can print everything I'll be showing you today. But it doesn't have a closed chamber like my X2D. The advantage of a closed chamber is that it can maintain a constant temperature, which is important for certain materials. And of course, it also reduces potential odors and emissions. So in my opinion, it's definitely worth recommending. Additionally, the X2D has 2 nozzles instead of just one. This allows you to print an object using 2 different filaments simultaneously. So for slightly more complex projects, this is a big advantage. You can print a more complex object with 2 different colors of filaments, which might even blend into one another in a single print process. But what exactly is this filament? As I said, it's like the ink for a printer. The plastic that's melted down and used to create your object. There are different materials you can use to make objects. They mainly differ in terms of stability, heat resistance and flexibility. So you could also print rubber-like objects, such as this lens cap for my 360 camera. By far the most commonly used material is PLA. So if you don't know where to start, just use PLA. It's easy to print and ideal for many objects. For example, Bambu Lab's PLA mat is excellent. It produces a matte yet very high quality finish. As you may know, I live in Italy, which is in the EU, and one thing the EU is particularly good at is regulation. Starting in mid-June, Bambu Lab will release a new PLA filament that meets the most important EU safety standards, including the EU toy safety standards. This means it contains very few additives and is, so to speak, the gold standard when it comes to safety and the environment. The new PLA filament is called PLA Pure and will be available starting in mid-June. I've already had the chance to test it for a few projects. An alternative to PLA would be PETG. Compared to PLA, it's more durable and also more heat resistant. That's why I've printed some of my mounts in PETG. There are also a variety of other materials that are softer or significantly harder and are suitable for gears, for example. But to start with, you can begin with PLA or PETG and don't need to worry too much about filaments. The only question left is where to get the print files and how to transfer them to the printer. There are many ways to obtain print files. The two easiest are the Maker World website, where you'll find more than 2 million print files that you can download for free. The platform was developed by Bambu Lab itself. It's even easier with the Bambu Lab mobile app, which contains the same 3D models. For example, if you search for camera accessories, you'll find a wide range of accessories for all major cameras. Mounts, sticks, tripods, you name it. Some of these replicate existing products. Others, like this dual handle for 2 pocket cameras, aren't even available for purchase, because they simply meet very specific needs. Here, for example, is a mount to better attach the Pocket 3 and 4 to a GoPro mount. Once you've made your selection, choose Prepare to Print. Then select the filament here. I use my black matte PLA and send the job to the printer. And that's basically it. It really couldn't be much simpler. The printer will now start printing and will apply layer by layer. This takes a certain amount of time, but in the end you'll have a mount that you simply can't buy in this form. And I can now use my Pocket 3 and 4 much more stably and effectively for top-down shots. For example, to film an unboxing. Attaching it to the base isn't very stable and will damage the extension in the long run, as I unfortunately discovered. In addition to the 3D models you'll find on MakerWorld or in the Bambu mobile app, you can of course also create your own models. If you don't want to spend time learning how to use software, there's also the Maker Lab from Bambu Lab. There you'll find a generator that creates a 3D print file from a photo, as well as generators for light boxes or figures of people. Or you can create boxes to organize your desk completely on your own by simply specifying the dimensions, all without any technical knowledge or experience. It's clear, Bambu Lab's goal is to make the entire 3D printing experience as simple as possible. Of course, there's also powerful CAD software like Autodesk Fusion, which gives you complete freedom to design any shape you want. That takes time to learn. And I think most people won't be too interested in that at first. And it's not necessary either, because as I said, more than 2 million 3D models should be enough to get started. So what has my personal experience been like? As you've already seen, I mainly printed accessories for my cameras at the beginning. I also printed some of them using the very durable PETG filament. As a complete novice, I was surprised at how quickly you can achieve a very useful result. At some point, I decided to do something for my office and printed a very stylish lamp. By the way, there's a dedicated LED lamp kit for this, which you can buy as an accessory for $13 directly from Bambu Lab. And of course it was time to tidy up my office. And since I have a certain sense of aesthetics, I also printed a few very nice desktop organizers for that. And this aesthetic basket here for storing items. And of course my son printed his own stuff too. Yes, the risk is that once you've gotten a taste for it, you'll want to keep printing all the time. It's just fun to hold the finished piece in your hands. And it has a certain addictive quality. But of course, not everything is perfect. Sometimes the material can fray a bit like here. Some prints take a really long time. So I just started them at night. Because the cool thing is, you can constantly monitor the printing process via your phone. And even start and control it remotely. As I said, Bambu Lab 3D printers are actually known for their speed, but a print can still take several hours. The printer itself isn't small either. You have to find a place for it. This desk in my office isn't stable enough. I guess I'll have to get a new one. I'm really glad the X2D has a closable chamber. Personally, I'd always prefer a model like that. But what really surprised me in a good way is the price. I expected a device like this to be significantly more expensive. As I said, the X2D costs $649. Its standout feature is the dual nozzle system. A slightly more affordable alternative is the Bambu Lab P2S, which has only one nozzle but is $100 cheaper. You'll find links to both printers in the description below. If an easy start is important to you, I can definitely recommend both printers. If you have any questions, just write me in the comments. I wouldn't call myself an expert even today, but 3D printing is definitely fun and is no longer just a hobby for tech nerds. So don't forget to give me a like as feedback if you found this video interesting, check the links in the description, stay tuned and see you next time.